I'm Abbvy DuBois. I just graduated from Norton High School, and I will be going to KU in the fall. I was an intern with Nex-Tech this year in the administrative department, so I worked with Cindy Wagner. So kind of an overview of my responsibilities. I did a lot of cleaning up our legal contract library. I went through files, which was a lot of like contracts and stuff, in both the active cabinets and the expired cabinets. And I had to remove all the expired contracts, and then I went through them to make sure they were all scanned into the online legal contract library, and then I destroyed the hard copy because we're trying to be more paperless. And I did that by throwing it in this shred bin over here, which is it's like an outdoor size trash can. Another project I did was working on the dine-in fundraiser for Nex-Generation. This year we just did it in Norton, and so I kind of was heading that and I did a lot of the planning and meeting with businesses and then executing the fundraiser, which I'll talk about it more as I go through. I did kind of a different setup than everyone else, and I kind of did a weekly summary of what I did every week. So my first week, I actually graduated on Sunday and started working on Monday, so that was fun. So my first week was a lot of getting set up with Nex-Tech, getting like a phone and a laptop, and getting my kind of office space set up. And then I did a tour of the Lenora office, which is where I work, which is right across the street over here. And then learning how to use Perceptive Content, which is our legal contract library online system. And then I started going through the active file cabinets to take out expired contracts. So then the next week, I really dug into the legal contract library work and going through the active cabinets. That week we had a Nex-Tech board meeting, which I got to help get lunch ready for the board members. Sometimes Cindy cooks for those, so I got to help her with that. And then I met the board of Nex-Tech. And then that week we also started working on the dine-in fundraiser. So we met with Jackie to discuss goals and created table tents, which we put out at the restaurants, and looked for possible dates. So this is a good chance to talk about the dine-in more. So that they've done in the past, I think 2 years ago, and it was Pizza Huts from a few different towns they all did it on one day, and the sales from a few hours of that day, like the dinner time, went towards Nex-Gen to like the internship program or Ameritown. And so we did that again this year, but we were hoping to expand it more from Pizza Hut to be a more community-based event. And so we focused on Norton this year and worked with pretty much all of the restaurants in Norton. And we chose a night and then a few hours from that night, which we chose the dinner hours, that they would donate the proceeds from those hours to Nex-Gen. So we started that this week. The next week we had a CFO staff meeting. So Cindy is directly under our CFO, Rhonda Goddard. And so every quarter they have a meeting where each department that's under the CFO gets together and kind of updates about what their department has been doing. So that included the HR intern, Abbvy, and I'll come to this side so I'm not shadowing, and then the HR director, Whitney, and then the safety coordinator, Tanya Spresser, and then the previous community outreach coordinator, Mindy Anschutz, and then our CFO, Rhonda Goddard, and the director of accounting, finance, and billing, Mindy Beaker, and the youth services specialist, Jackie, and then that's me, and the administrative coordinator, Cindy. That week we also had the online orientation with Jackie, which all of you guys went to. We had our Nex-Tech annual meeting, which is where members can go and they have updates about what the company has done in the past year. And so I handed out refreshments at that, which was fun. That week I worked on contacting restaurants to set up meeting times to kind of introduce them to the dine-in project and get them interested in participating in it. And I continued going through active files in the LCL. So then the next week was a lot more of contacting restaurants for the dine-in project and get them interested. And then I was gone for a lot of that week, so that was pretty much all I did. The next week, we had the Next Tech puts on orientations for new hires, which I went to Hayes for that, and we went over like employee benefits and safety procedures and a lot of stuff you need to know coming into the company. That week, we actually met with the restaurants to explain to them what we would do for the dine-in and kind of figure out if they wanted to participate in it. And out of the 8 restaurants in Norton, 6 of them ended up participating, which we thought was really good. And then I did some office housekeeping, kind of doing inventory of our storage cabinet and making a list of what we needed to order and what we had lots of, and then sending some unused supplies to other Nex-Tech offices. This week, I had started going through the expired file cabinets, which was that picture on the right, and worked on that for most of the week, and then again this week. And then the 5th through the 9th, I did final preparations for the dine-in fundraiser, so making these table tents, which is just like a triangle piece of paper that had information about Nex-Gen's programs on 2 sides, and then the information on the dine-in fundraiser on the other side. And we took those to all the restaurants and put them on each table the week before so that people could see that we were doing an event and be ready to come back and eat that weekend. And for that, I think we made 130 of those table tents that then we had to fold and tape together. And then I continued going through expired files. The next week we had the Leadership Day in Colby, which I thought was very useful. I learned a lot at that, and it was nice to hear from community people in Colby. I continued going through expired files, and I started doing more shadowing. Lisa Wagner is another one of my supervisors, and Cindy. I shadowed them to kind of see day-to-day stuff that they do, because I've done a lot of specifically working on the LCL, but it was nice to see what they do in a day. And then I continued going through expired files and shadowing Cindy and Lisa. And then I did some housekeeping of kind of Lisa's stuff. She doesn't do as much with the LCL, but she has plenty of files that we don't necessarily need in the office, so I shredded some of those and then continued going through the LCL. This week we have intern graduation, which we're obviously at right now. I'm continuing the LCL work. Right now I have one section of one drawer left to go through, so almost done with that. And then we plan on going in up to the school in the Nora. We keep some files and contracts that need to be kept for a certain amount of time, like 3 or 5 years up there, and we're gonna go up there and go through those and get rid of the ones that it's been 3 or 5 years that they've been sitting there and put in some new ones. So some things I learned this summer, I kind of learned what business administration is and what they do. It's a very busy job, and you never quite know what you're gonna do in a day, so that's pretty fun. And one thing that Cindy said to me that stuck out is, my job is to make Rhonda's job easier. She's the CFO. And so a lot of that is working with Rhonda or Jimmy in Lisa's case to make sure they can do their job efficiently. I learned kind of what it's like working directly with the highest level of management in a company, where Cindy's directly under the CFO and Lisa's directly under the CEO. We do a lot of work with them, which was cool to see. I learned problem-solving skills. So when I would go through a contract that needed to be in the LCL, sometimes they wouldn't be labeled right, or there would be an agreement in the wrong file, so I wasn't quite sure what to do with it, so I'd kind of have to investigate and figure out what needed to be done with those files. And then I learned some event coordination, especially with the dine-in project, and what you need to do to plan that, how you need to advertise, and how to execute the event so it goes smoothly. So thank you to Nex-Gen for putting on this internship program, and thank you to Cindy for working with me all summer, and thanks.